Hello class, this is Teacher Arianne and together with Teacher Ericka and Teacher Aleyah, we are going to discuss about Piaget's cognitive development theory. Now, Piaget's cognitive development theory focuses on how children develop and organize knowledge. It focuses on how learning happens through mental frameworks and the processes to adapting a new knowledge or new information. The proponent of this study or of this theory is Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget is a Swiss psychologist who introduced this in early to mid 20th century. In which laid the foundation for the modern constructivist theory that we use today. Now, Piaget's theory or the cognitive development theory introduced some concepts, which mainly the schema, assimilation and accommodation, and the equilibrium. These concepts explains how individuals construct their knowledge. Now, first, schema. Schema is the mental framework or the cognitive structure of an individual. These are the building blocks of knowledge in which individuals use to better understand their environment. Then, when we encounter a new information, we either assimilate or accommodate that new information. Assimilation is when we try to fit that new information to our existing schema. Then, accommodation is when we try to modify a schema so that we could fit that new information, so that we could better understand that new information. Now, let's say for example, this is a schema. Think of schema as a folder. For example, you have a schema of a dog, a folder of a dog. Everything you know about a dog is inside this schema. Has 4 legs, a pet, and barks. Now, when we encounter a new knowledge, let's say for example, a chihuahua. We found out that chihuahua is also a dog because it barks, it has 4 legs, and it is also a pet. That new information, we add that to our existing schema, to our schema about a dog. So, we understand that chihuahua is a breed of dog. That's when we assimilate a new information. That is assimilation. Now, we encounter another knowledge, another information. Let's say for example, a cat. Now, we found out that cats are not dogs. Pero, may 4 siyang paa. Pet din naman siya. Bakit hindi siya dog? That's when we accommodate that new information. We modify another schema or the existing schema. In this regard, we add another schema. About naman siya sa cats. So, aside from the schema of a dog, we add another schema about naman sa cat. Yung new information na yun, ilalagay naman natin doon sa new schema na minodify natin. That is accommodation. We modify a schema so that we could better understand that new information, to fit that new information to our knowledge. No? Now, the last concept is the equilibrium. Equilibrium is the balance between assimilating and accommodating a new knowledge. ito yung process na kung saan mag-assimilate ka ba or mag-accommodate ka ba ng new knowledge. No. Doon sa example natin about cats, confused tayo na apat din naman ang paa niya. Pet din naman siya. Ba't hindi siya dog? Bakit hindi natin siya inad doon? We encounter what we call a cognitive discomfort or cognitive disequilibrium. So, we try to research. We reason out. Nag-question tayo, naghanap tayo ng dahilan. When we found out na hindi lang naman lahat ng apat ang paa is aso, may iba pang hayop, doon tayo nakaka-encounter ng what we call cognitive stability or cognitive balance. No? When there is balance between schema, na-understand natin na may sense lahat, that's when we have cognitive stability, which is very important for Piaget in this theory. The cognitive stability of a child. Now, summary. Schema is the building blocks of knowledge, the cognitive structure used to better understand the environment. Then, we encounter new knowledge, we assimilate, we try to fit that new information to our existing schema. Then, when we accommodate, or the accommodation is when we modify that existing schema so that we could fit that new information. Then lastly, equilibrium is the balance between assimilation and accommodation. It is where we understand that everything makes sense. Then sa equilibrium, may dalawang ma-encounter dyan. When we're confused, the cognitive discomfort or disequilibrium. Then, when everything makes sense, stable na ang schemas natin, na-understand na natin lahat, that's when we have the cognitive stability. Now, for our next teacher, Teacher Ericka.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ericka Mae as Alendres, and today I am going to discuss to you the stages of Piaget's cognitive development. So, the first stage in Piaget's cognitive development is the sensory motor stage. So, sensory motor stage happens at 0 to 2 years old. So, this stage emphasizes object permanence and sensory explorations. So, at this stage, the child or the baby learn about the world through senses and sensations, and this is also the stage where the child began to understand about cause and effect. So one of the example of child's development under the sensory motor stage is when a baby look for a toy under a blanket. So this example shows object permanence. So the baby knows that a toy still exists even though she or he cannot see it. Another example is when a baby shakes a rattle to cause a noise. So this example demonstrates about understanding cause and effect. So our next stage is the pre-operational stage that happens at 2 years to 7 years old. So at this stage, the child begins to see symbolically and use words or pictures to represent an object. At this stage, the child also tends to be egocentric and struggle to see things from the perspective of others. So one example of child's development under the pre-operational stage is when the child uses a stick as a sword when he is playing. So this example shows symbolic thinking. Another example is when the child covers his or her eyes and believes that no one can see he or her. So this example shows egocentrism. Another example when a child believes that a pinball glass holds a large amount of water rather than a white glass, even though the amount of water at the two glasses is just the same. So our next stage is the concrete operational stage that happens from 7 years old to 11 years old. So at this stage, the child began to think logically about concrete events and became less egocentric and can already take others' people's perspective. So one example of child's development under the conflict operational stage is when the child understands or already know that the amount of water in a thin glass and a wide glass is just the same. Another example is when a child feels or knows that his or her friend is sad because they lost their favorite toy. Another example is when the child already knows how to solve simple mathematical problems like 2 plus 2 is equals to 4. So this example shows logical thinking. So the next stage is the last stage of Piaget's cognitive development. And this stage is the formal operational stage that happens from 12 years old and up. So this stage highlights the emergence of abstract thinking and the ability to solve hypothetical problems. So at this stage, the person can consider multiple perspectives and develop their moral and ethical values. So one example of a person's development under formal operational stage is when an adolescent can already think and understand about the concept of freedom and justice. So this example shows abstract thinking. Another example is when a teenager considers different possibilities that can happen when she or he is planning to do something. So this example showcases person's development under formal operational stage. So that is all about the Piaget's cognitive development stages. One is the sensory motor stage. The second is the pre-operational stage. The third is the concrete operational stage. And lastly, the formal operational stage.
We're then now in discussing the proponent and key concepts of Piaget theory of cognitive development. So let's proceed to the implications of this theory. I will discuss 5 implications to teaching. So, Piaget's theory suggests that children move through stages of cognitive development, each with its own unique characteristics and capabilities. Understanding these stages allows teachers to tailor their instruction to match students' current developmental level. So one of the implications is developmentally appropriate instruction or teaching the right way for each kid's age. Piaget emphasized that children learn best when instruction matches their developmental stage. This means that teachers should tailor lessons to the child's current cognitive abilities. For instance, young children in the pre-operational stage benefit from hands-on activities and visuals because they think more concretely, while older students in the formal operational stage can handle abstract concepts and reasoning. By recognizing these stages, teachers can avoid overwhelming students with tasks they aren't ready for and instead provide activities that challenge them just enough to promote growth. So imagine trying to teach a little kid how to do algebra. It wouldn't make sense. Piaget says teachers need to understand that kids learn differently at different ages. They just need to make sure that the stuff they're teaching is just right for how old the kids and how their brain works. It's like giving a puzzle to a toddler. They might not get it, but a school-age kid could. So, the second one is scaffolding and guided discovery, or helping kids learn on their own. In line with Piaget's theory, students construct knowledge through exploration and interaction. Teachers can support this process by guiding students without giving them all the answers. This might involve asking thought-provoking questions, giving hints, or breaking down tasks into manageable steps, or what we call scaffolding. For example, instead of explaining a scientific concept outright, a teacher might lead a class experiment and students to draw their conclusions, helping them make connections along the way. Think about teaching someone to ride a bike. You don't just throw them and say go. You hold the bike, give tips, and slowly let go as they get better. Piaget says teachers should be like that. They should help kids learn by giving them clues, breaking things down, and letting them figure things out themselves so they really understand. Another implication is encouraging exploration and experimentation, or let kids play and experiment. Piaget believed children learn by actively engaging with their environment. Teachers can create opportunities for exploration by designing lessons and allow students to experiment, test ideas, and learn through trial and error. For example, in a math lesson, instead of simply teaching a formula, students could solve real-world problems to discover how the formula works. This hands-on approach not only helps students understand concepts more deeply but also makes learning more engaging and memorable. Kids are natural explorers. They love to try things out, see how things work, and make mistakes. Piaget says this is how they learn best. Teachers should give kids space to play, build, try things out, and even mess up. That's how they learn. So, second to the last implication is fostering critical thinking and problem solving skills, or help kids think deeply and solve problems. Piaget stages stress the development of logical reasoning and problem solving abilities. Teachers can nurture these skills by presenting students with challenges that require them to think critically and analyze situations. For instance, group projects, open-ended questions, or debates can encourage students to evaluate evidence, consider different perspectives, and develop their own solutions. Such activities not only enhance cognitive skills but also prepare students to tackle real-life problems effectively. Piaget says kids need to learn how to think for themselves, solve problems, and figure things out. Teachers can help by asking questions that make kids think like, why do you think that? Or how would you fix that? This can also give kids real-life problems to solve. So, last implication is supporting social interaction and collaboration, or let kids learn from each other. Piaget highlighted the importance of social interaction in learning, especially during the concrete operational stage when peer collaboration can challenge a kid's thinking or child's thinking. Teachers can foster this by encouraging group activities, discussions, and peer learning. For example, working in teams to solve a problem or explain a concept helps students learn from others, share ideas, and refine their understanding. These interactions not only promote cognitive growth, but also teach important social skills like communication and teamwork. Kids learn a lot from each other. Teachers can use this by having kids work in groups, teach other kids, and talk about what they're learning. This helps kids learn in a fun way and helps them understand things better. So overall, Piaget's theory encourages teachers to create a dynamic and engaging learning environment that fosters active learning, exploration, and social interaction. By tailoring their instruction to students' developmental levels and providing appropriate scaffolding and support, teachers can help students reach their full cognitive potential. That's all. Thank you.